Hey everyone, welcome back. So, a viewer suggested me to take a look at an interesting interaction with Garuda. Exalted weapons are exclusive to their respective frames. They're supposed to be powerful, but there are some drawbacks to them, and lately, these years, we don't really find them that strong. And this is because they can't use Acolyte mods. They don't have extra capacity from stances, and they can't get Rivens. Instead, they scale off Warframe strength and typically have augments associated with them which are near required to make them much more powerful. Then we have Garuda's Talons. These are a very weird case, and we'll go over quickly why. They are not true exalted weapons, but not pseudo-exalteds either. They don't use stat sticks for damage calculations. In fact, you can't even equip her Talons unless you have no other melee equipped. So, no gladiator melee stat stick is possible here, unless you bring Helios with Deconstructor Prime. But wait, actually, her Talons completely ignore the Gladiator set bonus also, like normal Exalteds. Her Talons also cannot get Rivens because they aren't standard weapons. But, unlike an Exalted melee, her Talons cannot scale with strength. They don't have an augment, but they actually has capacity bonuses from standard stances. On top of this, until recently, her Talons couldn't use Acolyte mods either. That means no Blood Rush and no Weeping Wounds. So what is the real trade-off here in the end? Well, you can't use Rivens, you can't use augments, you can't use Acolyte mods, you don't get the Gladiator set bonus, you can't use a melee stat stick, you can't even bring a melee, and they don't scale with strength. In exchange, we get 70 capacity and a melee with acceptable base stats. This doesn't really seem fair, does it? Well, one important thing changed a few months back. In November 2020, a fix was pushed to allow Blood Rush and Weeping Wounds to finally apply on her Talons. They also finally made the Gladiator set bonus apply, but these claws are already 70% slash bias in my opinion, and range is more important than crit damage here since claws are so fast and we will already be spreading a ton of slash procs quickly. But that's fine. The Acolyte mod change was actually enough to push her Talons into a usable territory. And we got another wacky build for you today using them. This is somewhat more practical than most of the alternative builds I've shown you so far, but keep in mind this is unlikely to be faster than your usual setup. So, her Talons are technically an exalted weapon, right? Exalted weapons are considered abilities in the sense they hit across the rift plane. So what happens if I infuse Banish onto Garuda? I chose her too because we already have multiple ways to heal. Mainly Magus Elevate gives us a free instant 100% HP refresh to fuel her 3. You'll notice that the Heavy Gunner can't hit me anymore because I rifted him, and my own weapons can't hit him back. But Garuda's Talons can. So what does this mean? So long as you're diligent in the cast of Banish, you're effectively near invincible to the enemies surrounding you while you mow them down. As you go higher and higher level, this will actually become more effective because you won't be killing enemies as quickly on hit, meaning things in front and to your sides will actually have time to shoot at you. However, the damage does scale off, so I still wouldn't recommend this for long endurance runs. That said, you probably noticed another problem. If Garuda's Talons are the only weapon that can hit the enemy, how are we supposed to build up status for condition overload? Moreover, does this mean we have to mod elements on our Talons? Well, when the viewer suggested me to take a look at this interaction, the first thing I did as usual was immediately browse YouTube and Reddit to see if someone had tried this before. Lo and behold, someone did. But there is only one previous video concerning Banish Garuda, and it was also quite a while back, in an era where the Acolyte mods didn't work on her. A lot of things changed since then, and we also have new toys now. Namely, we no longer need weapons to proc the most important status, Viral. Enter Panzer Vulpaphyla. Holy crap, I finally actually got one. I know, right? Well, that's because Vulpaphyla is actually mandatory for this build to work properly. We can't spread viral with any consistency ourselves because our regular weapons cannot hit the enemy. So we are relying on Panzer to spread the procs for us instead with viral quills. It also is technically invincible due to Panzer devolution, and if you somehow die, which shouldn't happen on Garuda with her shield, infinite energy to cast abilities for shield gate, rolling guard, alongside Banish, your Vulpaphyla will keep you alive with Martyr Symbiosis. The Link and Recovery mods are nice to keep it alive as well, but expect it to die every now and then if you go Endless Endurance. So back to Viral Quills. How effective is she at doing this? Well, expect 6 to 10 procs on any given enemy that's in the same tile as you. It's a massive amount of procs. This means we can build her talons exactly what they're intended for, heavy slashing without having to sacrifice any slots and also getting a massive damage multiplier. So let's take a look at those. We are going pure slash in this setup. I'm running Berserker here, and we know this is getting nerfed into Berserker Fury in the coming Sisters of Parvos update. Claws are naturally fast, and we have massive status from Weeping Wounds and a 70% slash bias. So she will have no trouble killing enemies in the start with Viral Quills proccing. It is up to you once the update drops if you want to continue running Berserker Fury or Prime Fury in this slot. Besides that, we have our typical Primed Bane to double dip the slash DOT scaling, Condition Overload, because we're at least proccing slash and viral already. Even after the nerf to 80% per stack, we are guaranteed at least 2 procs at all times, and can also get puncture or impact very easily, so at the absolute worst, our base damage is 5% worse than Prime Pressure Point and generally always better. Blood Rush and Weeping Wounds, this lets us reach 152 critical chance and 194.4 status chance at 12x combo. After the Blood Rush nerf, this will drop down to 108 critical chance, but this won't be a huge issue due to our massive slash DOT output. On top of that, we still have more critical chance coming elsewhere, so sit tight for that. Organ Shatter for obvious reasons, and finally I actually doubled up on range with Primed Reach and Spring Loaded Blade. With how fast Claws attack and Talon's massive slash bias, I found it was more valuable to increase our range further to spread slash faster, rather than running Gladiator Might for heavier slash DOTs on less enemies. So now let's take a look at Garuda herself. You'll notice I'm running Combat Discipline with Arcane Avenger again so we can proc Avenger with self-damage. Yes, I know you've been seeing this on a ton of my builds lately, but this is actually very important and impactful on Garuda because her talents are our only source of DPS and they don't have spectacular base crit chance. In fact, after the Blood Rush nerf, your total CC falls to the point that Arcane Avenger ends up becoming a significantly larger relative bonus here. Our other arcane is Arcane Strike, since who doesn't like faster hitting attacks? If you feel this is too floaty, you can opt for Arcane Fury instead, as we still don't know if Condition Overload will actually be capped to 3 stacks or not once Sisters of Parvos drops. Prime Sure-Footed is a personal choice here, because we still aren't totally invincible. There is no true CC on this build besides Banish spam and a cone in front of you, so getting knocked on your butt is pretty risky. Natural Talent, because we're going to be using her 1 every so often at least to keep a frontal shield up in case we miss enemies with Banish. Her 4 is still a viable skill. We are going medium on duration because I expect you to kill enemies you banish. Banish already has a high base duration, and her 1 can easily be woven into your normal rotation and also has decent duration itself. You also have the option of using her 4 if something is too tanky for even more firepower, and that doesn't need that much duration either. Range is extremely important on this build though, because our goal is to banish as many enemies in the tile as possible. Preferably, because banish goes through walls and objects, you want to be able to banish everything you can possibly see and more, making sure nothing can hit you, because banish is just a frontal cone. There is a high chance you will still miss some enemies in the room, but you will have removed the majority of the threats anyways. This is also why we still use her 1, because at high levels having any threats remaining is dangerous. You'll notice the Augur set bonus is at 3. This is intentional. I ran Streamlining alongside this build so that her 1 and Banish only cost 31.25 energy. With the Decay Dragon Key for shield gating, she only has 75 shields. A 3 set bonus from Augur will grant 120% of energy spent to shields on cast. This gives us exactly 37.5 energy if I use her 1 or 2. So if your shield breaks, which will probably happen on Steel Path, 2 casts of the one-handed Banish animation will fully restore your shields. This is also why we're running Natural Talent. The build is already Banish spam heavy, so shield gating full regen will just feel natural. I've chosen to bring Blind Rage for the off chance we use her 4, because we need at least 134% strength for 100% bleed. If you never intend to use her 4, you can drop this. You will also have to drop Streamline in that case for Augur Secrets, because Banish in her 1 will only cost 25 energy to cast without Blind Rage. With Secrets, you now have a 160% Augur set bonus, meaning at 25 costs you will still get 40 shields back. This is the only way to maintain the ability to fully regenerate your shields with 2 Banish casts if you don't want to run Blind Rage. Alternatively, you can cast her 4, but that does have a long animation. Finally, you may be wondering why I'm running Quick Thinking. Combat Discipline damages you on kills the proc Arcane Avenger. It's only 1 damage at unranked, but we want to also make use of Garuda's passive, which increases her final damage based on lesser HP remaining. If you run down to 2 HP for maximum effect on her passive, Combat Discipline can actually kill you. By slotting Quick Thinking, you can maintain 2 HP, while Combat Discipline will drain from your energy pool instead, and only costing 1 energy per kill. Her 3 can easily refill your energy as needed, and Magus Elevate gives you a free 300 HP heal on demand every single time you swap to Operator, so it works extremely well. Finally, Prime Flow just gives you a big pool to use all of her kit together and plenty of reserves for quick thinking. If you don't trust the Shield Gate for Banish spam, you can also drop Streamline for Rolling Guard. I have actually brought weapons to accompany her, as the Acolytes can hit you even when you rift them, so you're better off using actual proper setups to handle them. Her Talons excel at applying tons of slash procs and scaling off viral, but Acolytes are capped to 4 of any kind of DOT, and the slash procs individually on her Talons are not that strong. Therefore, I'm bringing Brahma to deal with it. Honestly, any heavy slashing weapon is good for this. Brahma just makes the Acolyte short work so you can get back to hacking and slashing. Her Talons are underpowered for this purpose, and the Acolyte can actually genuinely kill you if you choose to melee it down with your Talons. You could attempt to use your heavy swing on the Acolyte, but follow through is a thing, and we are on Naramon instead of Zenric, so if you don't hit the Acolyte outright, it probably won't die from the slash of her heavy attack. Epitaph is our chosen primer here to CC the Acolyte once it spawns with Cold, because you will mainly be focusing on it when it spawns. You may miss hitting enemies with Banish. Building for Radiation and Viral helps because Epitaph also has innate Cold procs and base Blast. A combination of Radiation, Viral, Blast, and Cold procs is pretty much the best CC you can set up on a weapon with AoE and will ensure the enemies leave you alone while you're fighting the Acolyte. This is also where we are sourcing the other 2 Augur mods for a Garuda build to get back full shields, Augur Pact and Augur Seeker. Seeker is actually useful here for prolonging status effects on your enemies, including the Acolyte itself. The rest of this footage is just showcasing on Steel Path because there really isn't much to see of the build in Simulacrum. It's a hack and slash build where you interchangeably spam her 2 as Banish and cast her 1 and 3 every so often as needed. Her 4 is probably only useful for Steel Path Endurance. You'll see I started the mission off with casting my 1 on something to get those invincible frontal shields. Feel free to chuck this when it absorbs enough firepower from enemies you fail to banish, as it will still easily nuke them and can hit through the rift and has good AoE, but make sure you reset it immediately. Once I cast my 1, I'll typically double cast my 3 to get my energy pool going, then go into Operator and back to reset my HP. Now I'm ready to go. Sit at 2 HP is needed, or you may not even find it necessary. Typically, whenever I enter a new tile, I'll spend 2 seconds or so to spam casting Banish in every direction. This will become important as levels scale higher. Cast your 1 is needed to refresh, and your 3 whenever you need more energy. Once the Acolyte is about to spawn, I would strongly recommend recasting your 1 to make sure it has max duration. Spam Banish everywhere however you want before it spawns to make sure you have the least interruption from other enemies while you're fighting it. Killing the enemies is optional at this point as there is a spawn cap, so leaving enemies banished means more enemies can't replace them. I typically Epitaph spam the Acolyte immediately as it spawns and then just switch to my primary and blow it up. With your 1-up energy reserves, anti-knockdown, and easy shield gate regeneration, this shouldn't be too difficult. And there we go, the untouchable Garuda build. Only as untouchable as you're willing to spam Banish though, but I do feel it is very unlikely for her to die in this setup. I hope you enjoyed watching this fun little build I cooked up. If this is your first time watching, feel free to leave a like, or better yet subscribe. If anybody watching this can think of something else I might be missing to make it even better, feel free to let me know down in the comments. 79.5% of you are not subscribed. I'm trying my best to get you new information out always as soon as possible, like I've done with covering the Tempestari and the Sisters of Parvos dev shop. Stick around if you want to see interesting memes and builds on a nearly daily basis. I'm also preparing to get you the info first once the Sisters of Parvos mainline drops. Don't want to miss out on that day 1 Ureli content, do you? That'll be it for this video. Thank you all for watching and see you all next time.